Hi, and welcome to the Badass Breastfeeding Podcast, co-hosted by Abby Thiering, the Badass Breastfeeder, and Dianne Cassidy, IBCLC.
Hey, welcome to the Badass Breastfeeding Podcast. This is episode 13, lucky number 13. This is Dianne, IBCLC.
And I'm Abby, the Badass Breastfeeder.
Oh, and we are going to talk, this is installment 2 of our NIP series, which is Nursing in Public, if you didn't already figure that out. But we like to just call it NIP because it's more fun. But we're going to talk about, like, getting comfortable in your environment. And when I first... when Abby first mentioned, like getting comfortable, I was thinking in my head, I don't think I even said this out loud to you, Abby, but I was thinking in my head, like, oh, like getting comfortable, like, with the baby actually nursing in public, like emotionally comfortable. But It's not even just that. It's like getting comfortable in all sorts of different places that you might be.
Right. Well, last week we talked about reasons to breastfeed in public, and we talked about people's fears. And so, if before you can even get emotionally comfortable, you need to really ask yourself, like, what is it that makes you nervous? What do you think might happen? How would you handle it? And then what the only thing that you can do after that to try to get comfortable is to actually go outside and breastfeed. And there's some things that you can do to kind of ease into it. You don't just have to go to like a shopping mall and, or like a dealership. I remember like breastfeeding after many years, breastfeeding a giant toddler in the Ford dealership. And it was like, there were like 20 men and I was like, oh God. But I was doing it because it was just like I'd been doing it so long and whatever. But I mean, in the beginning, there's like some women, especially in the beginning, wouldn't be caught dead doing that in that situation because that's very intimidating. I mean, we live again in a culture where you don't see breastfeeding in public. Our bodies are sexualized, our breasts are sexualized. It's kind of like, well, I have to show my breast in front of all these men. And I mean, it's like a lot to ask, It
is.
So one of the things that I think that you can do, which is really helpful, is to go someplace where you know that 100% that you're going to have a positive experience. And so there's things like all cities, I think, have like La Leche League meetings.
I think it is all over, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's all over the world. Yeah. They're everywhere. Yeah. You don't have to, you don't even necessarily have to have... You don't have to have a problem to go to a La Leche League meeting. I mean, maybe breastfeeding is going fine for you and you just want to like go and see other breastfeeding moms or just like hang out there for a minute, try breastfeeding in front of other people.
Wasn't that like the basis of La Leche League? Like they were just a bunch of moms that said, let's just get together and hang out together. And because we're all breastfeeding our kids. Like, wasn't that the whole start of it?
I think so. If not, then we'll just say it was.
I know.
I really don't know.
I'm pretty sure it was.
You probably know more than me.
I think it was. But yeah, that's a great experience to just be, and there's going to be no judgment.
Like the meeting is for breastfeeding. So like, you're going to go and you're going to be like, but you're going to be fine. Like it's not, you're going to have a positive experience. You just are. And you can also go like, there's places like baby boutiques, places like this where there's going to be other moms there or where, or just women, it'll be mostly women. It'll be quiet. There'll be places for you to sit down. There'll be, it's going to be, positive. And, I mean, even things like I used to go, or I still do, go to Target and sit in the like display furniture. That's, and that might be a little too public for somebody right in the beginning who's feeling nervous about it. But, Babies R Us, what's it, Bye Bye Baby?
Yeah.
Or, these places are like for babies. You're more than likely going to have a really positive experience there.
Absolutely. The zoo. I always find that the zoo, there's always a lot of young families at the zoo and, you're not really going to, I don't think, have anything negativity. I mean, that's definitely way more public than say,
Yeah, Well, and I have a video on my YouTube channel of actually me breastfeeding at the zoo. And there was like this weird little like cove. There was like kind of a statue and then some bushes around. And I was the only one there. I was the only one there. It was totally fine. It was just like a good way to practice. And like, I think that's another thing too, is like being outside is for some reason, I feel like well, maybe some people feel differently, but I feel like even outside, sometimes you can get more private than you can, say, like in a really busy place. You know, you're in a, I don't know, a train station, or in a shopping mall, or someplace that's really crowded, or even at Starbucks or something. It might feel more public than actually just sitting on a park bench in a park where there's not that many people around.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, so those are like some things that you can try. And then so when you're out there, so now you're out there, you're breastfeeding, and you're like, it's hard to actually get physically comfortable sometimes, because you have to find, are you trying to find a place to sit down? Are you in a restaurant where there's chairs? Are you somewhere where there isn't any place to sit down? And you can sit on anything. I mean, you could sit on the floor, sit on the ground, find chair, even ask, if you're somewhere and you need to sit down to nurse, just ask somebody, is there a place where I can nurse? And like, maybe they'll be butt heads and be like, no, the bathroom. And you can be like, no, you lost a customer. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Because if somebody says like, that's where you can breastfeed, be like, I'm not going there. That's where people poop and pee. I'm not going to breastfeed there.
No, absolutely not. I have had a lot of moms ask about, especially, with newborns, how am I going to breastfeed in public? I feel like I need my boppy and my cover, and I have to watch the baby. And I'm like, and then you've got the moms that are, several months in, who are comfortable just kind of popping the baby on and sitting there, or actually standing and, walking or whatever. And moms really have this hang up in the beginning about like, do I have to bring my boppy pillow everywhere I go, or my breastfeeding pillow, whatever they have, because they feel like they need all this stuff, because that's how it is in the beginning.
Yeah. Well, it is hard to nurse a very newborn baby without like something holding your arms, because they're so tiny. Like, like you have to really hold your arms in close, and it's hard to be comfortable like that. But if you're out somewhere and you're doing that, I mean, roll up your coat and stick it under your arm.
Yeah.
Or your bag, your purse, or you can even bring, if you don't want to bring your big boppy pillow, then bring a little blanket and, roll it up and put it under your arm. Or something like that. Or like an armrest, or. Yeah,
an armrest for a chair. I've had a lot of moms that would just kind of like cross their legs and keep their knee up. And like lean the baby up against their knee.
You lean back a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And that worked really well for them. The arm of a chair. I've had moms do that too. Like even a wooden chair, like in my office, my waiting area, I just have regular waiting area chairs, but they have arms, and two of them were next to each other. One of my mamas at the support group just puts the baby right there on the, the side of the chair there. And that works out good, the arms of the chair. But like if you're in a restaurant, get another chair from somewhere, put your feet up. It's, whatever you need to do to be comfortable.
I remember when I had Exley, my second, I met with my friends down the street and down at the park down the street. And there was like we were just sitting on the ground, and I was so uncomfortable because there was nothing to lean on. And my friend got up and she came and sat behind me with her back.
Oh, nice.
And just like, we were just like, and then I could just lean on her. We were just leaning on each other, and it was like equal weight. So we were both just like totally comfortable. I know. I was like, oh my God, this actually works. And she's like, yeah, well, we'll just sit like this. Well, we couldn't see each other, but she's just trying to help Aduma. We could still talk. And you know
what she looks like. It's fine.
Right.
It's all good.
It was like the perfect, I don't even know if anybody who was not a mom would have thought of that.
No, it is perfect though. So I mean, there's tons of things that you can do.
And we'll talk more about this in a minute, but probably one of the easiest things you can do, which seems really hard at first, is baby wearing. And putting your baby in a carrier to walk around and all that stuff outside is going to remove all of that. And now, now that I have a 3-year-old who wants to nurse in public a lot, I can't be wearing him in a carrier because it's like he's too freaking heavy. And then you have to lower them down there. And then I'm like, have this weight that's like halfway like down my thighs, and it's like not comfortable. So now I need to sit down, but he's bigger. So it's easier to sit down with him because he can do a lot of the work himself. He can sit right on my lap. Mm-hmm. But when you have a tiny little baby that's not that heavy, you can really use the carrier. We get about that. But the other thing that I think living in Chicago and probably in Rochester too is that you get to learn are the breastfeeding in various temperatures.
Ugh.
Because it's from 20 below to like 110 here throughout the year.
Like that happens to us like in the same week, I feel like sometimes. I don't know if you're, but like there'll be days where it's like 50 and then the next day it's 80. It's
like, I know. I definitely, that happens here too.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's weird. You're like, what's happening? Is it like, climate change? I don't know. Who knows? But, and so if it's really hot outside, I'm somebody who I wore like a tiny little tank top and I pulled my boob out over the top. Mm-hmm. And, that's comfortable for me. I'm fine with that. You got to make sure you have like some sunscreen on your boob or something like that.
That's a good
Especially,
point.
You want to get like sunburned boobs, which would be really painful. But some people aren't comfortable with that. So you can wear like two thin tank tops and you could do like the 2-shirt method, which is where you pull up the top shirt up above your boob and then pull the bottom shirt down below your boob. So then all you have to expose is like a real sliver of your nipple.
And it's brilliant.
Just enough to attach your baby and that's all. And some women are much more comfortable with that. I mean, it's funny. Because someone were like, I don't pull it. Like, well, you need to pull, it's like, how come you're pulling your shirt down? Just pull it up. I'm sorry. I will much rather expose my breasts than my stomach.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is with me, but I'm like, pull my shirt up, then my stomach's hanging out. And I'm like, I'd rather just pull my whole boob out.
Yeah, I'd rather do that too, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So
the things that you have to think about is because what's going to make you comfortable? Because it doesn't matter what makes me comfortable. It doesn't matter what makes Diane comfortable. Like you have to figure it out for yourself so that you can get prepared and be comfortable when you're breastfeeding in public. And it's going to help you build that confidence.
They actually sell now. I don't know if you've seen some of these things. You probably have. But I've had one mama come to my support group that has these fantastically adorable nursing clothes. And she said that
nursing clothes are like a big industry now.
They're adorable, dresses and, shirts, and they've got the little slits in them and nobody would even see anything. And they're so stylish and cute. And she's like, they're expensive. They can be pricey, but they're great because,
Well, it depends on where you get them. Because if you go to like a boutique or something like that, they are really expensive. But there's places like Latched Mama and Utterly Hot Mama. I mean, these shirts are not terribly expensive. But they, and that's the great thing about these businesses is that they're popping up so much now that you have affordable ones, and then you have more formal and expensive options, if that's what you want.
Right.
So that's really helpful.
But there's some times where I wouldn't have even guessed that that's what it was.
Totally.
So cute.
It's like maternity clothes have gotten a lot better. Like back in the day, maternity clothes was just like you got to look like you're wearing a big potato sack or something. Right. Yeah, it was horrible. I was like, who was going to wear this?
I know.
And now they're like, actually, nursing clothes are doing the same thing that maternity clothes are doing. It's like they're getting more stylish. You wouldn't even really.
I know.
Well, maternity clothes, because you have a giant belly, but
right.
Nursing clothes, you don't even know. I have this one. Momzelle. I have a shirt from Momzelle, which is not expensive. And I love it. I love this shirt. I'm going to keep wearing it when I'm not breastfeeding anymore. Because it's just so cool. It's like one of those like wrap shirts and it's awesome. Yeah. So that, those are all those things that you can do. And I forgot to mention this, but in my next life, when I come back as an inventor, I'm going to invent like an inflatable nursing pillow. Like you could just blow it up like a pool toy. And just blow it up and it's got maybe like a half circle shape or something. And you can just put your arm on it.
That would be fantastic.
No. So somebody out there is probably going to steal my idea. But like I said, I don't have time for that. So there you go. $1 million.
I'm surprised it hasn't been done yet.
I know. I am too. Because I actually thought of that a few years ago. And I was like, why doesn't somebody invent this? And it doesn't even have to be like plastic. Because, they make like, you could put like a soft little covering on it.
Yeah.
I think it'd be good because then you just deflate it and you put it in your bag. You're not carrying a giant pillow around.
No, it'd be perfect. Or you might even really have something, even those like little airline pillows that you would use like when you fly and stuff, like it's just something small that you can stick in your baby bag.
Yeah, or an actual inner tube.
Yeah.
From your pool.
Right. Yeah.
Because then again, you can just like, we could deflate it and put it.
How fun would that be?
I know. Then you can like blow up. Now they make them all funny. They're like donuts and stuff. And just like.
I know. Yeah, we have we've got a pool, so we've got all that fun stuff. And
oh man.
They last like 30 seconds before the kids jump on them or they fly to the pool.
And they always get holes in them and stuff. Yeah, but newborns can't do damage anything.
No. So that would be way cheaper than a nursing pillow.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yes.
It would be way cheaper. But so there's tons of different ways that you can get comfortable being out.
And then so then we're talking about being hot, but what about when it gets really cold?
Oh yeah. But the one thing with being hot that we didn't mention is sometimes covers, if you're comfortable with a cover, you have to keep that in mind. In the hot weather, that might not be feasible because your baby's going to be like sweating under there. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, you got to be careful with that. Yeah. And, and if you need to cover, then, use like a really light, like a receiving blanket or something really light and just cover, as much as you want to, or can in the beginning. And then even like sometimes if you just cover enough just until the baby latches on, then you can kind of position yourself, whatever, to where you're feeling more comfortable. And even like the way you're angled, if you are in Starbucks or something, you can, if you're more comfortable kind of turning to the side or something, then just do that.
Yeah.
Or, and some people have problems with like, babies that are really distracted and they're like popping on and off.
Yeah.
And so then your boobs just like kind of hanging out there. Sometimes if you like latch your baby on and then turn your body so that your baby can see all the action, maybe they won't, I don't know, it doesn't work for all babies, but then they can see what's going on and they'll be maybe less, they won't have to like be craning their head everywhere.
Right.
If you actually point them to what they want to look at. I do that with my kids still.
All right. So cold weather. What do you think?
Cold. Yeah. So there's cold, like it's starting to get cold. It's not hot anymore. And then there's like Chicago and Rochester cold where like you're probably not outside, but sometimes sometimes you just have to be outside because you have to get out of the house. And then you're going to be somewhere and your baby's going to be like, I need, they were going to want a nurse. So you can, then you can use a blanket, make sure you have layers on, a scarf, because this is what I always do. Like you go to the park and it's like, oh, you want a nurse? Okay, let me open my coat and I'll pull my shirt down. That's fine. Maybe I have like a sweater or like the 2-shirt thing where you can pull it up, but then your neck is freezing cold. So, bring a scarf too. So then once you undo your jacket, your top part of your body is warm still.
And the baby's going to keep you warm too.
The baby will keep you warm. Yeah.
And the baby's going to be warm. I know a lot of people are so afraid that the baby's going to be cold when they're not, totally wrapped in 500 blankets. But
right. And that's the thing is people overheat their babies. Like you don't need, like your baby needs basically the same as what you have, like a coat and a hat. Like they don't need to have a coat and a hat. You see these babies that their arms are sticking straight out because they can't even move in the amount of stuff they have on. And you're like, that's too much. Because it's going to, your baby can get really hot in there.
Yeah. They can't regulate their body temperature. So it's just too much for them. And they get thirsty. And
again, like we can start talking about baby wearing, that if you're baby wearing and you're kind of put like they have a coat on and your baby wearing, then you're keeping each other warm. And that really is enough. You don't have to worry. Your baby's not going to like die of hypothermia. It's not going to happen.
No.
Like you have, you're not both naked. You have your skin covered and you're holding each other and you're good.
That's just the visual of, somebody walking down Rochester Street with snow on the ground naked with a carrier on.
Right.
Baby. Like, it's just,
we're warm.
I know. We're warm. What are you talking about?
They told us it was enough.
Yeah. Those badasses. They told us it was enough. Perfect. That's perfect.
So, yeah. So baby wearing. So I'm really into baby wearing because I think it makes everything way easier. Plus, there's like endless amounts of benefit, to it. I mean, like having your baby in a carrier, like it helps them facilitate, that attachment, that safety and security, and it's shown you could do skin to skin in a carrier too at home, or you could do it even outside. Mm-hmm. You have your carrier on, like you're nobody's going to see anything. You have your carrier on like a shirt.
They're fantastic.
So you could do skin to skin. You can just have your baby in a diaper, kind of open your shirt, and you're already doing skin to skin. Is so good for babies and your milk supply and their brains, and it's really amazing. But like what happens when you put a mom and a baby together, skin to skin.
They're so soothed, and if you have babies that, babies don't want to be put down. They want to be held. They want to be with you all the time. They want to snuggle with you. They want to know they're safe. They can hear your heartbeat right there. And if you are one of those mamas that just cannot lay on your couch and snuggle with your baby all day long, then get a carrier because that will save you. I always tell moms too, like when you're out in public with a carrier, people will be less likely to come up and try and touch your baby.
That's true. And they won't be able, if you're feeling a little bit nervous about people seeing you nursing, you can hardly tell that somebody's nursing when they're in a carrier.
You can't tell at all unless you really are staring at them and trying to look
unless
at
you
what
go over
doing.
And look down inside the carrier.
Yeah. I've had people be like, I nursed in the carrier in church. Like it's so proud of themselves because it's like nobody can see what's going on.
Right.
And it's just so much easier and your baby's right there. And then if they fall asleep while they're nursing, they're just right snuggled in anyway.
Yep, exactly.
You can't get any better than that.
I know. It's really, it's really cool. And it's, there's some cultures where they like baby wear all the time and putting the baby down is like taboo. Mm-hmm. Like somebody's wearing the baby. I can't tell you exactly which cultures.
I can't remember.
I'm not an anthropologist, but look it up. We can look it up. That you don't put your baby down at all, and you get a carrier, and then you carry the baby, and the dad carries the baby around, the aunt carries the baby around, grandma, and the baby just doesn't get put down. And these babies cry less. Mm-hmm. They're calmer. The moms have less problems with breastfeeding, and it all has like an amazing effect.
Oh, it's fantastic.
But a lot of people, and this is what I've heard over the years, really struggle to figure it out. Because if you have things like, especially like ring slings or wraps, that like the Moby, people look at it and they're like, oh my God, I would never be able to figure out how to put my baby in it. But the thing is that you will be able to figure it out. I have tons of videos on my website of like how to do it. And you go onto YouTube and just put in like wrapping a newborn in a ring sling or in a wrap, and you'll come up with, there's hundreds of videos of people doing it. And that's how I learned. I watched some videos and then I practiced in front of the mirror, and I just did it over and over till I figured it out. And then it became just brainless. Mm-hmm. It was just like a mindless thing. I was just, let's put this kid in here real quick.
It can be really intimidating to think about at first, especially like a Moby. I love the Mobies. Like I think they're, especially for a newborn, because they can really keep them nice and tight and snuggled in. And I think it's great for that, but it can be intimidating. You've got like 50 feet of material and you're like, what am I supposed to do? How do I get this wrapped around me? But once you get it, you get it. Now there's a lot of, I know here in Rochester, we used to have a chapter of the mama wearing groups. And they would swap carriers with each other and talk about what carrier do you think is best? Because there's so many out there now. Yes. Maybe you've got friends that can loan you one until you get comfortable using one. They can. Baby Wearing International has meetings all around the country, just like La Leche League, and you can go and you can borrow the carriers before you buy them. Yeah. That's so great because you will, and like I said, some of them are better for newborns, and then as they get bigger, they need a little bit more stability or whatever. But they're fantastic. And I was when I had Jack and he was my only child. I was really into the wraps. I was really into the ring sling and all these things. And when I had Exley, I was like, okay, I'm going to take out all these carriers and use them. And honestly,
I kind of felt like it did become a little inconvenient when I had to chase another child around. And so they have the buckle carriers, or also known as the soft structured carriers, like the Ergo and the Lila Baby, where those are, if you're really struggling and you're really intimidated, those are pretty simple to figure out. They come with a newborn insert where you can easily kind of put your newborn in there, kind of tuck their legs in, and then you're just snapping and snapping. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to worry about all the, I mean, if you like it and you kind of get into baby wearing, then you will, I promise you, be dropping some money on ring slings and wraps because you just will love it. But if that's that was my introduction into it. I got an Ergo and I was like, okay, well, this is easy to figure out. It's not all that wrapping of all the material and all that stuff. So it was like a good kind of entry into the whole concept.
Yeah, I thought it was, I remember my first experience with it, I had a backpack, like a frame baby.
Yeah, yeah, like those, like a hiking things? Yeah.
I had one of those for my son that somebody had given me. So it's like, I was just like, oh, okay, whatever. With my first. And I remember going to the mall, wearing it to the mall during Christmas shopping and thinking, this is the best invention ever. Because there was no stroller I had to mess with.
Yeah.
I'm not messing around. It was fantastic. And then when I had the twins, somebody along the way gave me another one. And there was one point I would wear both of them. Like one on the front, one in the back, because they were fussy and I needed to make dinner. Like it just had to get done.
Really?
It'll save you so much time and the babies are happy.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point about the strollers, because sometimes strollers are super inconvenient, and I had Jack was seeing a chiropractor when he was a baby, and getting on and off the bus to go there with a stroller would have been a freaking nightmare. And I see people trying to get on buses with a stroller, and it's like, yeah. And they're just like, hi. They're like, it takes forever, and they're like dropping all their stuff, and I'm like, oh, mama, oh.
I know.
Put them in a carrier and have your hands free, and you can even put a backpack for your stuff on. And I used to go everywhere. I walked thousands of miles with Jack as a baby in that carrier. Like it was just finding out about this this amazing secret that made everything so much easier. So we could talk about how awesome it is, but the thing is that figuring out so here's the other thing. You can breastfeed in each one of these carriers too. Yes. And then people, so people are like, okay, baby wearing's too hard. And then it's like, oh my God, okay, now you're asking me to breastfeed in the carrier. That's just way too hard. And it can be a little tricky. It's really awkward at first when you're trying to figure it out. But there's a little saying, loosen, lower, and latch.
Hello.
But you're basically, whatever carrier you're using, you are loosening it.
Hello.
You are lowering your baby down to, mouth to nipple.
Hello.
And latching them on. And then one of the things that you kind of have to trust is let your baby latch on and kind of help them find Jack. Shush. Jack, help them to figure out what's comfortable for them, because they will figure out how to kind of lay their head, and you can kind of even in a buckle carrier, you can kind of shift them to the side a little bit, whichever side you're nursing on. Mm-hmm. And they can, lean their head either on your chest or kind of on the outside arm. What?
It's really easy once you get going with it. So easy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's really I know it's really annoying to hear people say that it's easy because when it's when something is hard, it's annoying to hear people call it easy, but when you figure it out, it really is easy. And again, it comes one of those, it turns into one of those mindless things. And it when you're through it, even when we're talking about nursing in public, but we can just talk about being at home too. Like, when you're going through your day, and like the other day, and Exley's 3 and almost 3.5. And we're going where he was really frustrated and fussy, and I was trying to cook dinner, and my husband trying to play with Jack, and it was just like chaos. It was like one of those moments where it was just chaos. And I was like, you know what? Hold on. And I went and got the carrier, and I just put him in it. I just put him in the carrier and like finished dinner. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he can nurse, and then they're just not upset anymore.
Right.
You know, and you could do it at home. You can clean and you can like walk around or just like sit there or because you can sit too while you're baby.
I used to mow the lawn with my kid in a carrier.
Oh my God, that's so awesome.
You know, with the men on my back. Because it was like, one kid, the two were napping, one wasn't. So threw him in the backpack and went and got some stuff done. It's just, once, it kind of, like I was saying in the beginning, can be very intimidating.
Yeah.
And do not feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. If you feel like you have to watch videos or whatever, because that is the way to do it. That to really look and find one that you're comfortable with and find something that you like. And if you find a carrier, you use one, somebody gives you one and you don't like it, try a different one. Find one that you're comfortable getting into and getting out of and getting your baby in and out of very easily.
Right. And some people worry about the expense too. But I mean, you know, honestly, you bought that like $2,000 crib. You're probably not even using it because now you're figuring out that co-sleeping is really where it's at.
Well, the strollers. So, you know,
how much is a stroller? Yeah, exactly. The strollers are so expensive. Everything is so expensive. We never question buying these things. And then when it comes to baby wearing, it's like, well, I can't afford that. That's a luxury. It's not. It's really, really necessary to make your life easier. Mm-hmm. And consider, if you don't have the money, you know, consider not buying, you know, one of the other things on your baby registry because I think the carrier needs to move directly to the top of the list.
Or really, I'm sure if you ask around, there's going to be a mother that's ready to give one up. I've seen them at garage sales.
There are Facebook groups. There are huge Facebook groups of people who are selling used carriers. Mm-hmm. Like it's the whole baby wearing world is just massive.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can absolutely find things for, you know, used ones or something for cheaper.
Yeah. There was one. I'll tell you the story super quick, and then we can wrap up. But when I was working for WIC, I remember being in the office, and this woman came in with her. She was from Africa, I believe, Somalia, and she had her interpreter with her, and they were setting up an appointment. And the mama sat down on the floor. She had like this 6-month-old baby. Sat down right on the carpeted floor in the middle of our walkway where 1,000 people walk, and she's breastfeeding this baby. And she's just sitting there, and she's breastfeeding. And then the woman was taking care of her appointment, and she came out to get her. This woman took her baby, stood up, took her baby, threw her baby on her back, and wrapped her scarf around her, and walked away. And I was like, that is the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
That's very common in Africa. That's that's the way they carry their babies, on their backs in the scarf looking thing.
Yeah, that's all it was. Like the scarf that was around her neck, she just wrapped it around her back with her baby. I mean, she like literally stood up, bent over, threw her kid on her back, and wrapped a scarf around her, and that was it. Like, why do we make this so hard?
Yeah, I know, because it's because we don't see it all the time and we're not used to it. But yeah, you'll get used to it really quickly. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that was the hard sell. That was our hard sell on baby wearing.
Yeah. So everybody go out and that is your homework for this week's podcast. Find a carrier or watch a carrier video. Even go on my site and look up the is it breastfeeding and baby wearing. It's got all kinds of videos, and YouTube has tons of videos too. Yeah, but you'll definitely, once you see how happy your baby is, you'll be like, oh my gosh, why did I ever not do this?
Right.
And then we'll talk more about breastfeeding in that carrier out in public. So we are going to do another NIP series. And what's the next one?
Yeah, next week is the our part
3.
Part 3, and that is, I think it's family.
My favorite.
Dealing with family support. Because that gets a little tricky.
Favorite.
Yes.
Awesome.
And laws, because that gets a little confusing.
Yeah, I love that part too. So that'll be good. That'll be a good one. Make sure you tune in.
Yes, definitely.
Awesome.
And we can even sprinkle in some comebacks in there too.
Yes. So have your notebook ready. Write them down.
Yeah. Right.
Yes. All right. Awesome. Then we will see you next week.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.